handle the truth. As the whole becomes a part, I strike to burn, and the flame returns.
Here's Johnny.
Welcome back to the channel. G-Mac back with some thoughts, with some opinions, with some reactions. Wipe your feet off as you come in. Hit that like button. Hopefully you stay a while, because we're talking Austin Metcalf, Carmelo Anthony, the viral tragedy. There's a clip of this TikToker breaking down the affidavit. Shout out to him. Appreciate her for that. And we'll listen to the latest audio witness account and, of course, give some thoughts after. So, with that said, let's take this walk.
I'm not a lawyer, but y'all heard about the situation that happened at a Texas track meet last week? The overview is that after some sort of altercation, this 17-year-old student, whose name is Austin Metcalf, lost his life after being fatally stabbed at a track meet by this 17-year-old high school student, whose name is Carmelo Anthony. Now, there are a lot of reports about what happened, but I just read through the arrest affidavit, so let's go through some of the police officers' reports to walk through what they say happened. So it was Wednesday, April 2nd, and a call went out over dispatch about an incident at the school stadium. One of the school's resource officers, Officer Cortez, goes to the area, and when he gets there, a man points out Carmelo Anthony as the suspect. Officer Cortez walks over to where Carmelo Anthony was, but there's a chain link fence between the two of them. Officer Cortez tells Carmelo to put his hands in the air, and at this point, according to the report, without being asked any questions, Carmelo says, quote, "I was protecting myself." Carmelo and the officer then walk along the fence until they get to an opening, and when they do, the report says that Carmelo says, quote, "He put his hands on me." The officer then pats down Carmelo looking for any weapons, and after not finding any, Officer Cortez says over his radio that he has the alleged suspect. And at this point, according to the report, Carmelo says, quote, "I'm not alleged, I did it." Carmelo, no more talking.
Yeah, bro.
Around
no more
this time,
talking.
another officer arrives to the scene, and she and Officer Cortez walk Carmelo to the squad car. The report says that Carmelo is really emotional, and he says, quote, "He put his hands on me. I told him not to."
He is trying to be honest about it.
The car, and officers notice some blood on his hand, so they take some pictures. And while he's waiting in the back seat, Carmelo says, quote, "Is he going to be okay?" Carmelo is then transported to the jail. He's changed into jail clothing, and his clothes are put into an evidence bag for the investigation. Now, the next report is from Officer Allison Ricci. She's the one who arrived on the scene when Officer Cortez was with Carmelo. Officer Ricci's report is pretty similar to Officer Cortez, but one addition is that she says while she and Cortez were walking Carmelo to that squad car, he asked if what happened could be considered self-defense. The next reports from officers kind of detail the scene being secured, crime scene tape going up, and officers beginning to search for the weapon that was used. One of the witnesses on the scene directs an officer to where they say the weapon had been tossed, and when the officer finds it, it had started to rain pretty heavily, so they put up a tarp to protect the knife from the rain, but also being able to leave it in place. Okay, next, officers begin detailing what witnesses say led up to the stabbing. One witness told an officer that he was sitting under the Memorial High School pop-up tent with his teammates. Austin, who again is the victim, and Carmelo, who is the suspect, were also both under that tent. Austin tells Carmelo that he needs to move out from under the tent, and in response, this witness says Carmelo grabbed his bag, reached inside, and said, "Touch me and see what happens." Austin Metcalf then proceeds to touch Carmelo, and then Carmelo said, "Punch me and see what happens." This witness says a short time later, Austin Metcalf grabs Carmelo to tell him to move, and that's when Carmelo reaches into his bag, pulls out a weapon, strikes Austin with it, and then Carmelo runs away. And another witness told an officer a very similar story. He says that Carmelo was standing under that tent, and Austin told Carmelo that he needed to leave the tent because he doesn't go to that school. Carmelo and Austin then have some back and forth, and then Austin stands up, pushes Carmelo to get him from under the tent, and that's when Carmelo reaches in his bag and gets the weapon. So that's what we know so far. Carmelo has been arrested. He is incarcerated and charged with the death of Austin Metcalf. Both Carmelo and Austin's family have made GoFundMes and made some statements. Austin's family says he was a bright young man with a great future ahead of him, a leader of men, and that his smile would light up the room. Carmelo's attorney, on the other hand, says that Carmelo says that this was self-defense and more facts need to be developed to figure out what happened that day. Carmelo's attorney says he doesn't have any reason to think that this situation was not self-defense. So those are the facts right now. Carmelo's attorney has asked that his bond be reduced. So we'll see what new evidence and information comes out. But overall, this is a really sad story.
A witness in the Carmelo Anthony murder case came forward to make a statement, and we missed a lot about the whole incident. At the time of the incident, there should have been many students around. Let's listen to what he said.
It was raining. It got rained out like crazy bad. Everybody trying to get back to their cars or get in, places where they, wouldn't get all extra wet. Dude was sitting up under the tent, right? He was on his phone, right? My daughters was up under the same goddamn tent. Yeah. So I'm paying attention to my kids, but at the same time, they're in the same vicinity. So I'm watching everything going on around it, because I'm there for my children. So, dude walks up. McKellen, bro, he wasn't even under the tent at the time. They came from a whole separate tent and walked over there. They intentionally went over there to this kid, man. Dude was sitting on his phone just trying to get dry. You feel me? One thing went from another. They grabbed this man and they tried to punch on dude. Dude went in his bag and what they went to try to jump this dude and punch on this dude, man. And he protected himself, dude. That's what happened. Yeah. It wasn't just one, it was both of them, bro. Austin, the dude that got unalive, and his brother physically went over there to intentionally. It's not to the point that he brought a knife. For one, it wasn't on school property. The school is at least 5 to 10 miles away. It was community track meet, bro. It wasn't a school track meet.
Let's start there.
Rest in peace to Austin Metcalf, first and foremost, and may both sides get equal opportunity at seeking the truth. But for a country who voted against all the emotions and feelings, all the ultra-progressive policies, against DEI and affirmative action, all the policies based on identity, and I did too, let's make that clear. It sure seems hard as for y'all to separate race when judging this case. Because you take race out of it, and this is as close to an open shut self-defense case as there is. Now, obviously the whole, this is the fault of black culture narrative is simmered down a bit, as the painting of this picture becomes a little bit more clear. But, I do think it's the content creators that stick to a niche, and bias that are fanning, those flames for their fans who do live in the world, because the internet is a real place and we are real people that are on it. Look, I ain't even need the in-depth details for the common sense of what happened, started to form in my mind already. Within the first few days, we were exposed to these very important details. Austin Metcalf was 6'2", about 230. He had a twin, not as heavy, but similar stature, who through the emotions of losing his brother, admitted that he and his brother approached Carmelo and asked him to move. 2'6", about 230. Look, there were reports that they were known bullies, big dudes, popular, probably used to being intimidated or intimidating people by their size. It's plausible. And look, whether those reports are true or not, I'm pretty sure the approach wasn't, hey man, we think you're in the wrong spot. Don't mind you getting up. Come on. I'm not that gullible, neither are you. Those type of words and that type of temperament wouldn't have been enough to prompt anybody to feel like they need to go get a weapon from their bag. Even if you'd rather believe black people are inherently violent or whatever. And look, while the loss of life isn't the result anybody would or should want coming from this argument, especially between kids, the details have to matter. Like, even according to the police report, it was important for Carmelo to be cooperative himself and for the police to understand that he was defending himself. I mean, he even asked if Austin Metcalf was gonna make it. And sure, he asked, if what he did could qualify as self-defense, which many have chosen to see as premeditation. But for me, it comes off as a teenager who believes nobody's gonna believe him and he's gonna get in the end. Sounded like he was just making sure. Could have said a bit less, as Sis mentioned, but he's young. They're both young. And not to mention, regardless of what witness report was given, although some have different tones, the sequence of actions are the same. Carmelo Anthony was approached by Austin Metcalf and subsequently his twin brother, trying to force him to move from the spot that they didn't personally own. Carmelo Anthony was touched. He brought a weapon close, and he dared the bigger man to touch him again. Carmelo's bluff gets called, and he gets touched again, at which point he still does nothing but dare him to touch him again. So, I mean, that's 2 warnings. And then, of course, Metcalf was stabbed on a 3rd attempt to physically remove Anthony. I mean, look, this shit is sad all around. We don't know the extent, honestly and realistically, of the level of danger Carmelo felt, based on the level of aggression Metcalf and his twin put forth. Because we don't even have a cohesive explanation of that either. I mean, you take race out of this shit, just know that there were 2 aggressors of size and stature and a retaliator. Self-defense. But also, everybody loses in this situation. Everybody. But what do I know? Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, subscribe if you like the content. Hit the notification bell. And with that said, hopefully you've been entertained and informed while passing this precious time that we have. And hopefully I've earned your sub. I go by the name of Mac. This has been Doing It for GP. Till next time.
You can't treat him like any of the other niggas around here, because he ain't like any of the other niggas around here.
You never did me, I spit the truth. Call you aware, fear-driven niggas get the boot. All of you squares couldn't fit up in my circle. All of us rare and will hurt you severe. Slow your roll, nigga, patience is a virtue.